Admiral stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Starlight Guardian, and watched the destruction through the massive viewport. Orange and red fires covered the planet below. Smoke rose from cities that had stood for thousands of years. Ships fell from the sky like dying birds, leaving trails of flame behind them. She had been fighting for 3 days without sleep. Her uniform was dirty. Her eyes were red and tired, but she could not rest, not while her people were dying. "Admiral," said Commander, stepping up beside her. He was her second in command, a tall man with a serious face. "The latest numbers have come in." Did not turn to look at him. She already knew the numbers would be bad. "Tell me." "We have lost 60% of our fleet, 240 ships destroyed, another 50 badly damaged. The planetary shields are at 12% and falling. They have blocked all escape routes from the southern continent." Closed her eyes. 240 ships. Each ship had a crew of hundreds. Thousands of soldiers, pilots, and officers. Mothers and fathers, sons and daughters, all gone in 3 days. "And the evacuation?" she asked. His voice became quieter. "The civilian transports are trying to leave, but they are hunting them. They destroyed 18 evacuation ships in the last hour alone. 18 ships full of families, children." His hands tightened into fists. They were not just fighting a war. They were trying to destroy everything. Every man, woman, and child on Prime. They wanted to erase her people from existence. "How did this happen?" she whispered. "We were at peace. We had treaties. We had agreements." "They do not care about treaties," said bitterly. "They never did. They were building their armada in secret for years, and now they have come to take everything." The bridge doors opened and Lieutenant rushed in. She was young, barely 25 years old, with short black hair and quick, intelligent eyes. She was the communications officer, and right now she looked terrified. "Admiral, they are broadcasting a message to the entire planet." "Put it on screen," ordered. The mane flickered and a face appeared. It was High Commander of the Empire. He was not human-looking at all. His skin was dark gray, almost black. His eyes were yellow with vertical pupils like a snake. 2 curved horns rose from his forehead, and when he smiled, could see rows of sharp teeth. "People have said," his voice deep and cruel, "your fleet is broken, your defenses are falling, your leaders have failed you. In 3 hours I will begin the final bombardment. My ships will crack your planet's surface. Your cities will sink into fire. Your species will become a memory." He leaned closer to the camera, his yellow eyes gleaming. "But I am not without mercy. Surrender now and I will make your deaths quick. Fight and you will suffer for days before the end. The choice is yours." The screen went dark. Silence filled the bridge. Every officer stood frozen, staring at where his face had been. Could see the fear in their eyes, the hopelessness. 3 hours, said quietly. "We cannot stop them in 3 hours. We cannot even slow them down." Turned away from the viewport, she walked to the center of the bridge and looked at her crew. These were good people, brave people. They had fought hard and lost friends. They deserved better than this. "There is one option we have not tried," she said. Frowned Admiral. "The humans." The word spread through the bridge like a wave. Officers looked at each other in surprise. Some looked confused. Others looked doubtful. "The humans," repeated. "Admiral, with respect, they are a young species. They joined the galactic community only 40 years ago, and then they disappeared. They built their civilization in a quiet corner of the galaxy and stopped talking to everyone. No one has seen a human warship in decades. We do not even know if they have a military anymore." "We do not know anything about them," agreed. "But we also have no other options. The coalition fleet is destroyed. Our allies are too far away to help. The humans are the only ones close enough to reach us in time." "Even if they wanted to help, they could not arrive for weeks," said Lieutenant Minu from the tactical station. He was a young man with nervous hands. "Earth is too far. The journey would take—" "I know the distances," interrupted. But I also know that we have nothing to lose. We send the distress beacon. We ask for help. If they come, maybe we survive. If they do not come, we die anyway. But at least we will have tried everything. She turned to, Lieutenant, prepare a distress beacon, maximum power, direct it toward Earth and human space, use all emergency frequencies. Hesitated for only a moment, then she nodded, Yes, Admiral. As worked at her console, moved closer to and spoke in a low voice. They will intercept the signal. They will know what we are doing. Good, said, let them know. Let them see that we are not giving up. Minutes later, looked up from her console. The beacon is ready, Admiral. It contains our coordinates, our situation, and a formal request for military assistance under the Galactic Aid Treaty. Send it. Pressed a button. A powerful signal shot out from the Starlight Guardian, traveling through space at the speed of light, carrying one simple message, help us, please. Almost immediately, another signal came back, but it was not from Earth. Admiral, said, her face going pale, the flagship is hailing us. They intercepted the beacon, said grimly. Put them through, ordered. His face appeared on the screen again, but this time he was laughing. It was an ugly sound, deep and mocking. Admiral, he said, still chuckling, did you really just call for help from the humans, that tiny species that hides on the edge of nowhere? Oh, this is wonderful. This is truly wonderful. Kept her face calm. I have sent a formal distress call under the Galactic Aid Treaty. If the humans respond. If the humans respond, I will destroy them too, interrupted. Do you think I am afraid of some primitive newcomers? My armada has conquered 12 star systems. We have crushed empires that ruled for 10,000 years. The humans are nothing. They are insects. He leaned forward, his smile fatting. But I hope they do come, Admiral. I truly do. Because when they arrive with their pathetic little ships, I will crush them in front of your eyes. I will show the entire galaxy what happens to anyone who stands against the Empire. The transmission ended. Let out a long breath. Well, now he knows. Now everyone knows, said. She turned back to the viewport and watched her burning world. All we can do now is wait and hope. The hours began to pass. They continued their attack, slowly tightening their grip around Prime. Coalition ships fought desperate battles and died bravely. Evacuation transports tried to escape and were hunted down. The planetary shields grew weaker and weaker. And from Earth there was only silence. Stayed on the bridge, refusing to leave. She watched every battle, every death, every failure. Her officers brought her food, but she did not eat. They brought her water, but she barely drank. She just watched and waited. 1 hour passed, then 2. Admiral, said softly, there has been no response from Earth. Nodded slowly. She had expected this. The humans had no reason to help them. They had chosen isolation. They had left the galaxy's problems behind. Why would they risk their people for strangers? But still she had hoped. Continue monitoring all frequencies, she said, until the very end. Stood beside her as the 3rd hour began. The fleet was forming into bombardment position. 400 warships, arranged in a perfect grid, ready to unleash destruction upon the planet below. It has been an honor serving with you, Admiral, said quietly. Reached out and squeezed his hand. The honor was mine, old friend. She looked at her crew one last time. Good people, brave people, they did not deserve this end. But then, nobody ever does. 12 hours had passed since sent the distress beacon to Earth. 12 hours of fighting, dying, and losing. The Coalition's last defensive line had fallen 6 hours ago. Now, there was almost nothing left. Stood in the command center of a small base on Prime's moon. She had been forced to abandon her flagship when they destroyed it. The Starlight Guardian was now just pieces of burning metal floating in space. Half her crew had died with it. The moon base was cold and dark. Power was limited. Only emergency lights worked. About 200 survivors had gathered here, mostly crew members from destroyed ships and a few soldiers from ground units. They sat in corners, wrapped in blankets, waiting for the end. Commander stood at a damaged console trying to get information from their remaining sensors. His uniform was torn and burned. A bandage covered a wound on his head, but he was still working, still trying. They have completed their blockade, he reported. 400 ships now surround the planet in 3 layers. Nothing can get in or out. They are preparing for the final bombardment. How much time do we have? Asked. Maybe 2 hours, maybe less. Seems to be enjoying this. He is taking his time, letting the fear spread. Lieutenant sat at another console nearby. She had not stopped monitoring communications since they arrived at the moon base. Her eyes were red from staring at screens. Her fingers shook from exhaustion, but she kept working, listening for any signal from Earth. There was nothing, only silence. Lieutenant said gently, "You should rest." Shook her head without looking up. "I cannot rest, Admiral. What if they respond? What if I miss it?" "They are not coming," said a voice from behind them. Turned. Captain stood in the doorway. She was a small woman with hard eyes and a scar across her cheek. She commanded one of the few surviving coalition frigates, a small ship called the Morning Star. Her crew of 50 was among the survivors here. "We sent the beacon 12 hours ago," continued, walking into the room. "Earth is 3 weeks away at maximum warp speed. Even if the humans left immediately, they cannot arrive in time. And honestly, why would they come at all? They do not know us. They do not owe us anything. They chose to leave galactic politics behind. We are strangers to them." Captain said sharply, "That kind of talk does not help." "I am not trying to help," said. "I am being realistic. We are going to die here, all of us. Our planet is going to be destroyed, and hopping for some miracle from a species that has been hiding for 40 years is just going to make the ending hurt more." Looked at the younger captain for a long moment. She understood her anger, she understood her despair, had lost everything in this war. Her home city had been destroyed on the first day. Her family was dead. She had every right to be angry. "Perhaps you are right," said calmly. "Perhaps no one is coming, but I have been a soldier for 30 years, Captain. I have seen impossible things happen. I have seen battles won when all hope seemed lost. And I have learned that giving up before the end is a choice. I choose not to make that choice." Stared at her for a moment, then she looked away. "I hope you are right, Admiral, I truly do." She walked to a corner of the room and sat down alone. Moved closer to and spoke quietly. "The crew is losing hope. I can see it in their faces. They believe we are going to die." "They might be right," admitted. "What do we tell them?" Thought about this for a moment. "We tell them the truth. We are in a desperate situation. Help may or may not come, but as long as we are alive, we fight. That is what soldiers do." The hours continued to pass. The fleet moved into final bombardment position. Broadcast another message, this time showing images of Prime's ruined cities. He was laughing, describing how he would reduce the planet to a ball of fire and glass. Some of the survivors cried. Others prayed to whatever gods they believed in. A few just sat in silence, staring at nothing. Lieutenant never left her console. Her eyes moved constantly across the screen, searching for any signal, any transmission, anything at all from human space. "They are not coming," said again from her corner. She had been saying it every hour like a dark prayer. "They are not coming." 1 hour before the bombardment was scheduled to begin, walked over too. His face was tired but peaceful. He had accepted what was coming. "Admiral," he said quietly, "I want you to know that serving under your command has been the greatest honor of my life. Whatever happens next, I have no regrets." Smiled sadly. "We have been through a lot together, old friend. Do you remember our first mission, that patrol along the outer colonies?" "How could I forget? You got us lost for 3 days because you refused to ask the navigation computer for help. I was young and proud, laughed softly, and stubborn. You are still stubborn, said with a small smile. They stood together in silence for a moment, remembering better times. Then's voice cut through the darkness. Admiral turned quickly, was staring at her console, her eyes wide, her hands trembling. What is it, Lieutenant? I am receiving a transmission, audio only. It is coming from. His voice broke. She swallowed and tried again. It is coming from human space. The room went completely silent. Every survivor turned to look at. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Put it through, ordered. Pressed a button. Static filled the speakers for a moment. Then a voice came through, clear and calm. It was a male voice, speaking in Galactic Common with a slight accent. Coalition vessel, this is Fleet Admiral of the Terran Defense Force. We received your distress signal. Maintain your current position. Do not engage the enemy further. We are coming to help. Estimated arrival time, approximately 4 minutes. The transmission ended. Nobody spoke. The words hung in the air, impossible to believe. 4 minutes, whispered. He said 4 minutes. That is impossible, said Ensign Minu, a young tactical officer who had survived the destruction of his ship. Earth is 3 weeks away at maximum warp. There is no technology that can cover that distance in 4 minutes. It cannot be done. Maybe they were already close by, suggested another officer. Maybe they have ships in this sector. We would have detected them, Minu said. Our sensors showed nothing. No human ships anywhere in Coalition space. Had risen from her corner. Her hard expression was gone, replaced by confusion. Is this real? Could this be some kind of trick? A fake transmission to give us false hope? The signal codes are authentic, said, checking her console. And the transmission came from outside the blockade. It is real. Someone really sent this message. 4 minutes, repeated softly. She walked to the window and looked out at the stars. The fleet was visible in the distance, hundreds of ships forming a wall of death around Prime. 4 minutes from Earth, impossible. But then again, what did anyone really know about the humans? They had joined the galactic community 40 years ago, introduced themselves politely, shared some basic information about their culture and history, and then disappeared. They retreated to their corner of the galaxy and stopped talking to everyone. 40 years of silence. What had they been doing all that time? Admiral said, moving to stand beside her. If they are really coming, what do we do? We do what he said. We maintain our position and wait. And if he does not come, if this is just a false hope? Turned to look at him. For the first time in days, there was something in her eyes besides exhaustion and despair. It was small, fragile, barely visible. But it was there. Hope. Then we die as we were going to die anyway, she said. But at least we will die hopping, and that is better than dying in despair. She looked at her crew. All eyes were on her. Everyone, she announced. I do not know if help is truly coming. I do not know what the humans have planned or how they could possibly arrive in 4 minutes, but someone answered our call. Someone heard us, and that means we are not alone. She straightened her torn uniform and lifted her chin. So we wait, we watch, and we hope. 3 minutes remained. High Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Death's Hand, and watched his fleet prepare for the final attack. 400 warships hung in perfect formation around Prime, their weapons charged and ready. In less than 5 minutes, he would give the order, and the planet below would die. He smiled, showing his sharp teeth. This was his greatest victory. The had always been proud, always believed they were safe behind their alliances and treaties. Now they would learn what every species eventually learned. Power was the only thing that mattered, and they had more power than anyone. High Commander, said one of his officers, our sensors have detected a strange signal from the Coalition survivors on the moon. What kind of signal? It appears they received a transmission from human space. The humans claim they are sending help. Laughed loudly. Several of his officers joined in, their harsh voices echoing through the bridge. The humans, those primitive creatures who hide at the edge of nowhere. This is wonderful. Do you know what I remember about humans? When they first joined the galactic community 40 years ago, they came in ships that looked like they were held together with string and hope. Their weapons were pathetic. Their shields were weak. And then they ran away and hid. That is what I know about humans. Perhaps they have improved since then, an officer suggested carefully. Improved, snorted. Even if they spent every day of the last 40 years building warships, they could not match our armada. We have conquered species that ruled for. The humans are nothing. Let them come. I will crush them as an example to anyone else who thinks about helping our enemies. He returned his attention to the planet below, beautiful prime with its blue oceans and green continents. Soon it would be black and burning. Soon it would be dead. Then his tactical officer spoke urgently. High Commander, our sensors are detecting something strange. Strange, what do you mean? I do not know how to explain it, sir. Space itself seems to be bending, folding, like something is pushing through from somewhere else. Frowned and looked at the main. At first he saw nothing but stars and darkness. Then he saw it. A crack in reality. It started as a thin line of light, bright blue against the black of space. Then it grew wider, tearing open like a wound. Through the opening could see something else, something that should not exist. A different place, a different space, filled with stars he did not recognize. What is that? He demanded. I do not know, High Commander. We have never seen anything like it. More cracks appeared, 10, then 20, then 100. They opened all across the battlefield, surrounding the fleet in a ring of impossible light. And then the ships came through. They were unlike anything had ever seen. They were massive, far larger than any vessel in his armada. Their hulls were smooth and angular, covered in geometric patterns that seemed to pulse with energy. They were black with silver edges, beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Count them, ordered, his voice tight. 212 ships, High Commander. The largest one. The largest one is 5 times bigger than our biggest dreadnought. That largest ship moved forward, emerging fully from the crack in space. It was the flagship, realized, the leader of this strange fleet. As he watched, lights along its hull began to glow brighter, like a beast opening its eyes. Impossible, whispered. Where did they come from? How did they get here so fast? High Commander, we are receiving a transmission from the unknown fleet. Put it through. A voice filled the bridge. It was calm and steady, speaking perfect galactic common. Forces, this is Fleet Admiral of the Terran Defense Force. You have attacked our allies. You have killed innocent people. You have destroyed homes and families. This is your one and only warning. Power down your weapons and surrender immediately. If you do this, your soldiers will be treated fairly and returned home. If you refuse, the voice paused. If you refuse, we will respond with force. You have 30 seconds to decide. The transmission ended. Stared at the in shock. The Terran Defense Force. These were human ships that had traveled across the galaxy in minutes, human ships that were larger and more advanced than anything he had ever seen. For a brief moment, he felt something cold in his chest, something he had not felt in years. Fear. Then the fear turned to anger. He was High Commander of the Empire. He had conquered 12 star systems. He had crushed armies and fleets and empires. He would not surrender to anyone, especially not some upstart species that had been hiding for 40 years. All ships, he commanded, his voice hard and loud. Open fire on the human flagship. Everything we have, destroy them. 400 warships turned their weapons toward the human fleet. Plasma cannons charged. Missile bays opened. Kinetic accelerators spun up to full power. In seconds, The full might of the armada was ready to strike. Fire shouted. The attack was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Thousands of plasma beams, tens of thousands of missiles, millions of kinetic slugs. A wall of destruction racing across space toward the human ships. The light from the weapons was so bright that sensors had to automatically dim or risk burning out. On the moon base, Admiral watched through the window. Her heart stopped as she saw the unleash their full power. The human fleet was about to be destroyed before it could do anything. They had come so far, only to die in seconds. Then something happened that she could not explain. The attack never reached the human ships. A barrier appeared around the Terran fleet, visible for only a fraction of a second. It was like a soap bubble made of light, thin and delicate. The entire assault hit this barrier and disappeared, not deflected, not exploded, just gone. The energy simply stopped existing. What breathed? On the flagship was screaming at his officers. What happened? Where did our attack go? The humans absorbed it, High Commander. Somehow they just absorbed everything. That is impossible. Fire again, fire everything. They fired a second volley, then a third. Each time, the result was the same. The attacks vanished against the human barrier without leaving a mark. It was like trying to fight the ocean with your fists. Then the human admiral's voice returned, quieter now, almost sad. I gave you a chance. You chose war very well. What happened next took exactly 7 seconds. The human ships began to glow. Thin lines of light extended from each vessel, white and pure, reaching out across space like threads of a spider's web. These lines connected to the ships, touching their hulls gently, almost softly. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then every vessel stopped. Every light went dark. Every engine went silent. Every weapon went cold. 400 warships, the pride of the Empire, became drifting hulks of metal in an instant. On the moon base, Ensign Minu was staring at his console in disbelief. Their systems, everything has shut down. Engines, weapons, shields, life support, everything. It is all offline. All of them? Commander asked. All of them, every single ship. Captain stood frozen, her hard eyes wide with shock. What did the humans do? I think they fired some kind of electromagnetic pulse, Minu said slowly. But targeted, precise. They only hit the systems. They only disabled what they wanted to disable. I have never seen anything like it. It should not be possible. Admiral said nothing. She just stared at the viewport, watching the dark shapes of the fleet drift helplessly in space. 7 seconds. In 7 seconds, the humans had ended a war that had killed millions. In 7 seconds, they had defeated an armada that had conquered 12 star systems. In 7 seconds, they had changed everything. On the flagship, emergency lights flickered on, powered by backup batteries that still worked. Stood in the red glow, surrounded by the chaos of screaming officers and dying consoles. He could see through the viewport. He could see the human ships, still glowing softly, still waiting. He could see his entire fleet, 400 warships floating powerless and broken. He had lost. He had lost without ever landing a single blow. High Commander, one of his officers said, his voice shaking. Human boarding craft are launching from their ships, hundreds of them. They are coming for us. Said nothing. He just stood there, staring at the human flagship, trying to understand what had happened, trying to understand how everything had gone so wrong so fast. For the first time in his life, the High Commander of the Empire had no idea what to do. Admiral had spent 3 days listening to the sounds of war. Explosions, screaming, warning alarms, the crack of shields breaking and the roar of ships dying. Those sounds had filled every moment, waking and sleeping, until she thought she would never hear anything else. Now there was only silence. She stood at the viewport of the moon base, watching the battlefield that was no longer a battlefield. The fleet drifted in space like dead fish in water. No lights, no movement, no sign of life except for the faint red glow of emergency systems. 212 human ships moved through the wreckage, graceful and calm. Their hulls still pulsed with that strange light, beautiful and terrible. Smaller craft launched from their bays, hundreds of them, heading toward the disabled vessels. "They are boarding them," Commander said, standing beside her. "The humans are boarding the ships." "How?" Captain asked. She had moved from her corner to join them at the viewport. Her voice was different now, softer, almost confused. "How did they do this? In 7 seconds. I counted. 7 seconds and the war was over." Lieutenant was still at her console, trying to make sense of her readings. "I have been analyzing the energy signatures," she said. "The weapon the humans used. It was some kind of directed pulse, like an electromagnetic burst but incredibly focused. It only affected specific systems. Weapons, shields, engines, life support. It left everything else untouched." "That kind of precision should not be possible," Ensign Minu said. "To hit 400 ships at the same time, targeting only specific systems without destroying the ships themselves. We do not have anything close to that technology. No one does." "The humans do," said quietly. Remained silent, watching the scene outside. She was trying to understand what she had witnessed, but her mind kept returning to the same question. What had the humans been doing for 40 years? When they first appeared in the galactic community, they seemed so ordinary. A young species from a small planet just beginning to explore the stars. Their ships were simple. Their weapons were basic. Everyone had smiled politely and welcomed them, thinking they were just another minor species that would take centuries to become important. And then they disappeared. They said they wanted to focus on building their own civilization. They stopped attending galactic meetings. They stopped trading with other species. They closed their borders and asked to be left alone. For 40 years, the galaxy had ignored them. Now understood that had been a terrible mistake. A new transmission came through the base's speakers. It was the same calm voice from before, Fleet Admiral. "Coalition survivors, this is the Terran Defense Force. The fleet has been neutralized. Repeat, the fleet has been neutralized. We are sending medical teams and transport ships to your location. Please remain where you are. Help is coming." Walked to the communication console and pressed a button. "Fleet Admiral, this is Admiral of the Galactic Coalition. We do not know how to thank you. You saved us. You saved our entire species." There was a brief pause, then replied, "Admiral, there is no need for thanks. We heard your call for help. We came. That is what neighbors do." Neighbors, such a simple word. Almost laughed. Neighbors who could cross the galaxy in minutes. Neighbors who could disable entire armadas with a single weapon. Neighbors who had hidden unimaginable power for 40 years and never used it. Until now. "Fleet Admiral," she said, "I would like to meet with you to thank you properly and to understand what just happened." "Of course, Admiral. My shuttle will arrive at your location in approximately 15 minutes. I look forward to meeting you." The transmission ended. Moved closer to, "Are you sure about this? We know nothing about these people. For all we know, they could be planning to conquer us next." "If they wanted to conquer us, they would not have saved us," said. "They would have let the destroy everything, then moved in to take what remained." "No, Commander. Whatever the humans are planning, it is not conquest. I am sure of that much." "Then what are they planning?" Shook her head slowly. "I do not know, but I intend to find out." While they waited for the shuttle, reports started coming in from across the battlefield. Human boarding teams had entered the ships and were taking the crews into custody. The process was fast and efficient, but also strangely gentle. Soldiers who surrendered were handcuffed, yes, but they were also given water and medical attention if needed. "They are treating them like prisoners of war," observed, listening to the reports. "Properly, by the book. I expected them to execute everyone after what they did. Maybe that is what makes them different from the suggested. Exactly 15 minutes later, a human shuttle landed outside the moon base. It was sleek and silver, shaped like a curved blade, nothing like the boxy transports used by coalition forces. Admiral went out to meet it, within following behind her. The air on the moon was thin and cold, kept breathable only by the base's atmosphere generators. The sky above was black, filled with stars and the shapes of ships. The shuttle's door opened, and a ramp extended to the ground. A man walked down it. Fleet Admiral was not what it expected. He was in his 50s, with gray hair cut short and a face lined by years of experience. He wore a simple uniform, dark blue with silver trim, no medals or decorations visible. He looked like someone's kind uncle, not the commander of the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. He stopped in front of and bowed slightly, a gesture of respect. "Admiral, it is an honor to meet you. I have read about your defense of Prime. You fought bravely against impossible odds. Your people are lucky to have you." Bowed in return, still feeling dazed. "Fleet Admiral, the honor is mine. You saved my world. You saved billions of lives. I do not know how we can ever repay you." "There is nothing to repay," said with a small smile. "But perhaps we can talk. I imagine you have many questions." "I have thousands of questions," admitted. "Laugh softly. Then let us start with a few. Please walk with me." They walked together along the edge of the moon base, looking out at the stars, and followed at a respectful distance, listening but not interrupting. "The weapon you used," said, "what was it?" "We call it a cascade disruption beam," explained. "It sends a focused pulse that interferes with electronic systems at the quantum level. Very precise, very clean. It disables technology without destroying it and without harming living creatures. We have nothing like that. No one does. You will, eventually. All technology develops over time. We simply had a head start." "A head start of 40 years. Nodded, 40 years of complete focus. When we joined the galactic community and saw what was happening, we made a decision. The galaxy was chaotic, wars everywhere, species conquering and destroying each other. We could have joined that chaos, taken sides, fought for power, but we chose a different path." He stopped walking and turned to face her. "We went home, we closed our borders, and we started building. Not weapons of destruction, Admiral, weapons of peace. Technology designed to end wars, not win them, to disable enemies without killing them, to protect the innocent without becoming monsters ourselves." Stared at him. "You spent 40 years preparing for this, for moments like this." "We spent 40 years hoping we would never have to use any of it," said quietly. "Every scientist, every engineer, every soldier in the Terran Defense Force prayed that the galaxy would find peace on its own, that species would learn to live together, that we would never need to intervene." He looked up at the stars, his expression sad. "But peace does not come easy. Power corrupts. The strong prey on the weak. And sometimes someone has to stand up and say, enough, this far and no further." "Why us?" asked. "Why did you answer our call? You could have stayed hidden. You could have let the exhaust themselves against us, then stepped in later when it was convenient." Looked at her with something like surprise. "Because you asked for help, because innocent people were dying, because children were being murdered." He shook his head. "What kind of species would we be if we stood by and let that happen? What kind of civilization would we be building?" Felt tears forming in her eyes. She had been so sure they were going to die. So sure that no one cared about them, that they would be forgotten and destroyed like so many other species before them. And then the humans came, not for power, not for territory, not for resources. They came because someone asked for help. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for coming." Reached out and gently touched her shoulder. "You do not need to thank us, Admiral. This is what we are here for. This is why we exist. to make sure that when someone sends a desperate call into the void, someone answers. Always. Above them, the stars continued to shine. The fleet continued to drift, powerless and beaten. And somewhere on Prime, people who had been certain they were going to die looked up at the sky and saw human ships keeping watch. For the first time in 3 days, they felt safe. 3 days had passed since the battle that was not really a battle. The fires on Prime were slowly being put out. Emergency teams worked day and night to rescue survivors from the rubble. Medical ships from the human fleet had landed in every major city, their doctors and nurses treating the wounded without asking for anything in return. Admiral had been invited aboard the Terran flagship Sunrise for a formal meeting. As her shuttle approached the massive vessel, she could not help but stare. The Sunrise was like a floating city, larger than anything she had ever seen. Its hull was dark silver, covered in those strange geometric patterns that seemed to pulse with hidden power. Beautiful, terrifying. "The ship is 12 kilometers long," Commander said, reading from his. "It carries a crew of 15,000 and can operate independently for up to 10 years without resupply. Its main power source is something called a zero-point reactor, which apparently draws energy from empty space itself." "I do not understand half of those words," Captain admitted. "Neither do I," said, "but the point is clear. The humans are far more advanced than anyone realized. They kept this hidden for 40 years. 40 years of building while we fought and died over scraps." The shuttle landed in a hangar bay larger than most Coalition space stations. Human crew members in neat blue uniforms guided them to an elevator that rose smoothly through the ship. The walls were clean and white. The air smelled fresh, like a garden after rain. Everything felt calm and organized. Fleet Admiral met them personally outside a large meeting room. He bowed in greeting, just as he had on the moon base. "Admiral, Commander, Captain, welcome aboard the Sunrise. I hope your journey was comfortable." "Very comfortable," said. "Your ship is impressive." "She has served us well," said with a fond smile, as if talking about an old friend. "Please come in. There is much to discuss." The meeting room had a large table in the center and windows that looked out at the stars. Several other humans were already seated, officers and advisors in similar blue uniforms. They stood as entered and bowed respectfully. As everyone took their seats, noticed a young woman standing near the door. She was a soldier, wearing combat armor, but her face was soft and kind. Her name tag read Private. "Please sit," said. "I know you must have many questions. I will try to answer what I can." Took a deep breath. "Fleet Admiral, your arrival saved my people. For that, we are eternally grateful. But I must understand, what happens now? What do the humans want?" Nodded as if he had expected the question. "A fair question. Let me explain our position." He pressed a button, and a holographic map appeared above the table. It showed the galaxy, with different colored zones marking different territories. For 40 years, we watched the galaxy tear itself apart. Wars over resources, wars over territory, wars over ideology, species destroying each other for reasons that will be forgotten in a century. We saw the pattern, and we knew that if we joined this chaos, we would become part of it. We would become just another empire, fighting and killing and losing ourselves in the process. He gestured at the map. So we chose a different path. We built our strength in secret, not to conquer, not to rule, but to protect, to end wars before they can destroy civilizations, to give the innocent a chance to survive. "You want to be peacekeepers," said slowly. "In a way, yes, but not in the traditional sense. We do not want to govern anyone. We do not want to collect taxes or make laws for other species. We just want one thing, for the galaxy to stop burning." "And how do you plan to achieve that?" asked, her voice sharp. "By threatening everyone with your—" Looked at her calmly. "We do not threaten, Captain. We simply exist. And now that our existence is known, species will have to consider us before they start wars. before they attack civilian targets, before they commit genocide. He leaned forward. They will be sent home. Their soldiers, their officers, even their high commander. We will not execute them. We will not torture them. We will return them to their people with a simple message. Do not do this again. If they attack innocent worlds, if they commit atrocities, we will come back. And next time, we will not be so gentle. You are setting yourself up as judges, said, deciding who is right and who is wrong. That is a lot of power. It is, agreed. And we do not take it lightly. We have rules. We do not interfere in normal conflicts between species. Border disputes, trade wars, political disagreements, those are not our concern. We only act when there is clear aggression against civilians, when there is genocide, when there is mass murder of the innocent. And who decides what counts as clear aggression? We do, with careful analysis, multiple perspectives, and as much information as we can gather. Will we make mistakes? Probably. We are human after all. We are not perfect, but we will try our best to be fair, to be just, and to protect those who cannot protect themselves. The room was quiet for a moment. Looked at the holographic map, at the vast expanse of the galaxy with all its species and civilizations. What do you want from us? She asked finally. From the coalition. Nothing, said simply. You do not owe us anything. Rebuild your world, heal your people, live your lives, that is all we ask. But surely you want something. An alliance, trade agreements, military bases. Smiled gently. Admiral, we have everything we need. Our worlds are peaceful, our people are happy. We do not need your resources or your territory. We just needed you to survive. He stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. You asked me earlier why we came, why we answered your call. The truth is simpler than you might think. We came because you needed help. We came because we could help. And we came because we believe that no species should face extinction alone. He turned back to face her. The galaxy is vast. There is room for everyone to live in peace. For too long, species have fought over scraps when there was abundance all around them. We hope that our presence will change that, not through force but through example, through showing that power does not have to mean cruelty, that strength can be used to protect instead of destroy. Admiral rose from her seat and walked to stand beside him. Outside, she could see Prime, her beautiful but surviving. You are asking us to trust you, she said, to believe that you will use this power wisely. Yes, and I know that is a lot to ask. Trust must be earned, not demanded. So we will prove ourselves through actions, not words. We will protect the innocent. We will end conflicts without unnecessary killing. We will be patient and fair and just. He looked at her with steady eyes. And if we ever fail to live up to these standards, if we ever become the monsters we fight against, then I hope the galaxy will hold us accountable. Because power without responsibility is tyranny, and we did not build all of this just to become tyrants. Studied his face for a long moment. She had spent 30 years reading people, judging their intentions, deciding who to trust. Everything in her experience said that this was too good to be true, that no one had this much power without wanting to abuse it. But looking at, she saw something she had not expected. Sincerity. He truly believed what he was saying. He truly wanted to help. I believe you, she said finally. I do not fully understand you. I'm not sure I trust everything you have said, but I believe that you mean well, and that is a start. Smiled warmly. A start is all we can ask for, Admiral. The rest will come with time. As prepared to leave the sunrise, she passed Private at the door. The young soldier was helping a group of prisoners walk toward a transport ship. The prisoners looked exhausted and frightened, expecting punishment. Instead, was handing them blankets and water bottles. Why are you being kind to them? One of the prisoners asked in broken galactic common. We are your enemies. We killed your allies. Smiled gently. You were soldiers following orders. The people who gave those orders will face justice. But you were just doing your duty. We do not punish soldiers for that. We are not monsters." The prisoner stared at her in confusion, unable to understand. In his experience, the strong always crush the weak. The victors always punish the defeated. That was how the galaxy worked. But the humans did not seem to know that rule. Or perhaps they simply chose not to follow it. Admiral watched the exchange with something warm growing in her chest. Hope, she realized. Real hope for the first time in years. The galaxy was changing. A new power had emerged, one that did not want conquest or domination but simply wanted peace. Whether that was possible, whether it would last, did not know. But she was willing to find out. As her shuttle lifted off from the sunrise and headed back toward Prime, she looked out the window at the human fleet still keeping watch. Silent guardians, patient protectors. Humanity had been hiding for 40 years. Now she understood why. They had been waiting until they were ready. Ready to guarantee that no species would ever again have to send a desperate call into the void, hoping that someone strong enough would answer. Because now someone always would. The stars burned bright above Prime. The fires below were fading, and somewhere in the vastness of space, a young species from a small planet had finally taken its place among the stars. Not as conquerors, not as tyrants, but as guardians. And the galaxy would never be the same.